This is a 190 Q&A practice test. Plaintiff attorney, Mr. Stanton, capital S-T-A-N-T-O-N. Defense attorney, Mr. Collins, capital C-O-L-L-I-N-S. And we'll start with plaintiff attorney. Ready? Here we go. And who was involved in this project? I was there, the wrecker operator, and the person that brought the trailer. Once the vehicle was secured, what did you do? We then prepared, and I'm not sure if this is the point where they actually had the ramp raised now, and we then looked at the crushed vehicle in the crusher, or if that had occurred right prior to moving the Ford Explorer out. But at some point, Tom Trask said that we don't need you anymore right now. Get the Explorer back to the lab. All right, during your exposure to the SUV, how many law enforcement officers were in the immediate area of that vehicle? When I first arrived, I would guess 3 to 4. There was always one standing away from it, and the person was there just to make sure that no one who didn't belong there was there. That was like the security guy. When I first arrived, they were removing the tarp. I think there were 3 or 4 there. Tom was there with me, my photographer. There was another, you mentioned Tom Trask, Agent Trask, who is seated here. Yes, all right. And I don't know all the people involved, all right. And how about after your tour of the general area, you came back to the area where the SUV was? Were there officers then present as well? The one on guard was still there, same person? That I don't know. Okay, about what time did you leave the scene that Saturday night? I believe it was about 8:45. What time did you arrive in Madison? It was about 1:15 a.m. And what time did you finish securing the Explorer? It was about 2 a.m. All right, and where was the vehicle secured? In the garage at the crime lab in Madison. Did you need the help of any other professional help to secure the vehicle? Yes, tell us about that. When we arrived in Madison, I called the local wrecker company to come and do the opposite of what the wrecker had done at the scene in Manic, to lift up the back end, pull the vehicle out of the trailer, and then put it into the garage because the back wheels were still locked. Directing your attention to Sunday, November 6th, were your services again requested in this investigation? Yes, about 9 a.m. Special Agent Tom Trask called me and requested that we come up to the salvage yard again. And at that point, they hadn't any specific area they wanted our help. They just wanted our general assistance to be available in case they came across anything. Okay, did you then make plans to travel to the salvage yard? Yes, and what time did you in fact go to the salvage yard? We left Madison, I think it was just before noon. And what time did you arrive at the salvage yard? I believe it was around 3:30. When you arrived at the scene, with whom did you meet? Agent Lansing and Special Agent Trask. What assignments were you asked to perform? Well, we were told of 3 areas where cadaver dogs had been interested. One of them was on the east side of Burton Road at the corner with 147. There was a gravel quarry, and there was a maybe 30-foot tall mound of gravel and sand, and about 6 to 8 feet up the pile, the dog got excited about something. They said they would put an orange flag there, and they had seen a pinkish substance, so that was one place. The dogs were also interested in 2 wrecked vehicles that were parked on the perimeter of that pond near where the Explorer had been, and then they talked about the burning barrels that I had seen the night before. The dogs were interested in those. We began working at the gravel yard. All right, and was anything of significance in your determination found at that gravel yard location? We found some reddish staining on some pieces of gravel. They tested presumptive positive for the presence of blood. We located a pinkish substance, perhaps 3/4 of an inch in largest dimension, looked like flesh. We found another piece of material about the same size. It was reddish and white in color. Both of those items also tested presumptive positive for the presence of blood. We collected those, and then we began to excavate that area under where those materials had been. So we dug 4 to 6 feet of gravel out of that area and placed it on a tarp, shovel by shovel, looking to see if we could find anything more. And we worked until dark. It was about 5. And did you find anything else? We didn't find anything more. Was there any evidence whatsoever that that was any kind of burial site or any wrongdoing had occurred there other than the presence of possibly blood and some flesh. And at that point, we didn't know if it was animal or human. We collected it and didn't find any more. That was the extent of it, and that's because the test does not distinguish between human or animal. That's right. Okay, and after completing that one task, what was your next assignment or task on the agenda? At that point, we were asked to go and look at Richard Blake's house. It had previously been examined by others and things had been taken, so at that point we just went in and we were asked to look for any evidence of blood spatter patterns. It's one thing to find blood, a blood stain that can tell you some information, but we were looking more for patterns or blood stain. If you cut your finger and do this, the blood will come off your finger and leave little specks in a line, and you can tell something about how that blood came to be in little specks in a line. Can the record reflect when he said do this, he was moving his index finger sort of out to the side and kind of flicking it? That's fine. That's an accurate reflection of the actions he took. Did you find any evidence of bloodstain pattern? No, we didn't. Now, what, if anything, did you find in your examination of the house that Sunday evening? We found some bloodstains on both entry doors and on the floor of the vanity and in the sink in the bathroom. What equipment were you using as you examined his house that night? We used flashlights with white light and blue light. The blue light helps to give contrast to the blood, makes it turn black, so it helps to see blood. And we used white light to see the reddish color of blood. Who was helping you in this task? I was with Jim Long, the photographer, and also Chuck Cates when we returned on Sunday. There were 3 of us. What was the next? About what time did you wrap up your examination of the defendant's house? I think we were in there until about 5:30. When you start at the house, was it dark or still light out? We were losing light. When we left the gravel yard, it was not productive to be looking for things without more lighting and flashlights in a large gravel pile and shoveling. That wasn't productive anymore. By the time we left the house, it was completely dark, 5:30. After, just so that we're clear, you mentioned Mr. Lang's name before. Mr. Cates went with you on this trip? Yes. Just so that we're clear, who was Mr. Cates again? He is another member of the field response crew. His normal duties involve fingerprint work. That's his specialty. He was also at that time the field response training coordinator. After checking the defendant's house, what was the next task you did that Sunday night? May I look at my notes to refresh my memory there? If need be, sure. Okay, after we looked at the house, then we moved on to the 2 vehicles that the cadaver dogs were interested in down near the pond. One of the agencies had set up some very impressive lighting down there, so we were able to examine those vehicles even though it was dark outside. We found apparent blood staining in both vehicles. We collected those blood stains. We did not do fingerprint analysis, or we did not process the vehicles for latent prints at that time because it was starting to form dew on them. And the way we look for fingerprints is to take a fine powder with a feather brush and dust across. And if it's wet, that just does not work, so we just left that for a later time after it dried off again. And these vehicles, what were they? One was a gold-colored Corolla and one was a silver-colored Escort. All right, the word list. It's a little bit long. We have Ford Explorer, capital F-O-R-D. New word, capital E-X-P-L-O-R-E-R. Tom Trask, capital T-O-M. New word, capital T-R-A-S-K. Manic, capital M-A-N-I-K. Lansing, capital L-A-N-S-I-N-G. Madison, capital M-A-D-I-S-O-N. Burton Road, capital B-U-R-T-O-N, capital R on road. Richard Blake, capital R-I-C-H-A-R-D, new word, capital B-L-A-K-E. Jim Long, capital J-I-M, new word, capital L-O-N-G. Cates, capital C-A-T-E-S. Corolla, capital C-O-R-O-L-L-A. Escort, capital E-S-C-O-R-T. One more time, capital E-S-C-O-R-T. And I just wanted to mention, I believe, towards the end of the test, instead of saying Mr. Long, I said Mr. Lang. So it should be Mr. Long instead of Mr. Lang. All right, that will conclude our 190 Q&A practice test.